Hi guys, let's talk about arguments. I have here two separate arguments and let's take a look at each one. So number one, Robert Cox is a very heroic man for saving so many people. That is the claim, and they're telling me what, in the student's opinion, why is he heroic? Why is he heroic? Well, it is because he is saving so many people. So I've got a nice clear why there. Then we're going to go into evidence. Robert started publishing stories of the kidnappings in Argentina, and he managed to save many lives, even though that meant his life was in danger. When Maria Consuelo Castellano Blanco and her daughters were kidnapped, he saved their, drop a T in there. That's why you should probably proofread. He saved their lives by publicizing, that's not how you spell publicizing, that's okay, their story, so the government was afraid to kidnap or afraid to execute them. So that's your evidence, and you can see you have these little fragments of quotes that are embedded inside the summary of what's going on, and every single sentence that has evidence has the correct citation, last name of the author. So far we're looking good. Let's keep going. If Robert didn't, that right there is already telling me that this is setting up for a contrast. If Robert didn't foster, ding ding, there's your vocab word, foster the truth and didn't write about the suffering of the Argentine people, many more would have died. The government could have continued lying, but Cox ensured that didn't happen by spreading the word. And so you have that, you're going back to many more would have died, which goes back up to the claim. So this is a really nice argument. So let's take a look at the second one. Robert Cox was heroic for reporting on the injustices of the Argentine government. Now, if you notice, this is a slightly different thing. Up here, it was focusing on the fact that he was saving people is what made him heroic. Here, they're like, dude, it has nothing to do with saving people. It has to do with speaking up and like challenging people and telling them that they're wrong. So it's a different claim, but it's definitely a claim. Let's take a look at the evidence. When several people started to disappear after the government was taken over, Robert Cox began publishing stories of the kidnappings in his articles. Since he denounced the ruling general's atrocious actions, Cox was incarcerated, yet he continued doing his part to disseminate the events after surviving. He reported until his family became targeted, which caused them to flee the country. Again, I see that every single time I have a sentence with evidence, I have that citation. That citation is correct. And this time, oh my gosh, denounced. Gosh, I saw a bunch in here. Now I'd have to go back and reread it. But if you notice, there are going to disseminate, there are a number of the good vocab words in here. So evidence is looking good. So let's take a look at the commentary. If Robert Cox had not, which means I'm already, ding ding, I'm setting up for contrast, had not taken the heroic steps of reporting injustices of the Argentine government, the stories of the many victims would have remained untold. So you're seeing that again, we're going up to the reporting. Though his contribution did not cause immediate change and it took several years for him to be recognized, Robert Cox was not any less of a hero. I would probably change this because we're kind of getting away from what we have up here. And that is, I would pull in something more about injustice. I would pull in something more about the danger of challenging the government. So I would probably pull in government. But while this commentary is not quite as strong as this commentary up here, this evidence is like, woo! What am I looking for in evidence? Well, very simple. In evidence, I want to make sure that the only facts you're including are the facts that prove that claim. And these things both really do a good job with that. But let's take a look at the next step in the writing process. And the next step is we're going to move from doing argument to doing paragraphs. So I have here two separate arguments. And you can see I've cleaned up the last line a little bit so that we're a little bit more focused on the injustices. So reporting on the injustices is one claim, and then saving people is the other claim. Now, I want to have a topic in any given paragraph. And in this case, my topic is going to be Robert Cox is a hero. Now, here's the trick. If I am in math class and I am trying to plot the slope of a line, and all I have is 1 point, can you figure out where the line goes? No. Do you know the slope? No, you don't even know if it's a positive or a negative slope. But the minute you have a second point, well, then you can connect them. Then you can come up with a slope. You got, the rise over the run. You can, clearly now we have a pattern that we can work with. But it takes at least two in order to form a pattern. The exact same thing is true in English. If I want to prove that Robert Cox is a hero, if that's the topic I want to prove, I cannot just have one argument supporting it. One does not make a claim or does not make a pattern ever. So what do I need? I need at least two of something in order to make a pattern and be able to say, look, that is the pattern that I've made. And that's what I'm going to do with arguments. If I am trying to prove that Robert Cox is a hero, I need to start with two separate arguments. Give me two reasons why he is a hero. And now you can see why I did what I did here. What is the first reason why he's a hero? Because he saves people. What is the second reason why he's a hero? Because he reports on those injustices and takes a risk while doing it. So I now have not one reason why he's a hero, but I have two reasons why he's a hero, which means I can now establish a pattern of him being heroic. The basis of any paragraph is going to be that I have two arguments to support the same topic. In this case, Robert Cox is a hero. Now, once I have those two arguments, we need to talk about how we go from argument to paragraph. Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to decide which of these two are stronger. Now, if we are doing a short story, my guess is you have seen the plot line for a short story from teachers so much that you can just choke every time you see it. And you're like, oh my God, again, we're going to do that because I've got exposition, I've got rising action, I've got climax, I've got falling action, I've got resolution. And we know that most of the story is in rising action. And the falling action is actually very short because the climax almost always comes close to the end of the story. Now, at this point, my guess is you're saying, well, but why are we talking about this? Very simple. The reason why the plot diagram works is because for the majority of the story, what you are doing is you are building up to a point. You have something happens here that's interesting, and then it gets more interesting, and then there's more danger, and then somebody's trying to kill the main character, and then there's the big explosion, and then Thanatos kills everyone. You're getting more exciting as you go. That sense of things building up creates suspense. It creates the sense that, oh my gosh, I want to keep reading to find out what comes next. Well, essays should be exactly the same way. when you are writing essays, you should always go from, hey, here's a good example. Here's a good argument. Ooh, here's a better argument. Here's an even betterer argument. And here is the bestest argument of all in the end. No, please don't use words incorrectly, but I'm having fun making up words. But my point is that you need to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So you need to go from a good argument to a better argument to your best argument. So you always want to put your strongest argument at the very end. So my question is, which of these two arguments do you believe is the stronger case for Robert Cox being a hero? Is it that he is saving people? Is that the more heroic action? Or is it that he is reporting on injustices? Well, I think that saving people, actually, that sounds a little bit more like a hero. If I think, heroic, if I think, Superman, or if I think Odysseus, I do tend to, okay, maybe not Odysseus, he tended to get people killed rather than saving people. But for the most part, I tend to think of heroes as being people who save others. So I am actually going to take this argument, since it is my stronger argument, I'm going to take this argument and I am going to put it to the end. Okay, so now I think that I am correctly going from a good argument, he was heroic for reporting on injustices, to a better argument that he is saving so many people. Now, what is the first sentence that you need to have in a paragraph? Well, that would be your topic sentence. What exactly is your topic sentence? It simply tells you what is the topic. Robert Cox was a hero. That's not terribly difficult. So that's your topic sentence. Now, if you notice, if I'm going into a full paragraph, first of all, I need to indent. Second of all, if I say Robert Cox was a hero, Robert Cox was heroic for, that sounds very, very repetitive. And so the minute I say Robert Cox once, from then on, I'm just going to say Cox, not Robert. Refer to people by last names, not by first. But I still have Robert Cox was a hero, Robert Cox was heroic. So I want to change that up a little bit. And all I'm trying to do is to trim out any repetition. So Robert Cox was heroic. He risked himself reporting on the injustices in the Argentine government. So what we are now seeing is the topic sentence is flowing straight into that first argument. So the only thing I've added here is, in fact, the topic sentence, and had to do a little bit of zhuzhing to make sure that it doesn't repeat with that first claim. Well, now I need to figure out a way to go from my first argument, which is he risked himself reporting on injustice, to the second argument. Whenever I go from one main idea to another, I need a transition. And the type of transition I'm going to ask you guys to work on this time is called an order transition, or an order of importance transition. You see, you intentionally placed these arguments going from a good argument to a better argument. Well, then use a transition to tell me that that order was not accidental, that you chose it intentionally. So I'm going to look, instead of doing something like next, what does next tell me? Or what does second tell me? Well, that just tells me that the argument is next, or it's your second argument. Clue, I can count. Look, first argument, second argument. Do you really need to tell me it's the second argument? The answer is no. I want you to use transition for what it's really made for, and that is tell me something important about how you have organized this piece. So since you're going from good to better, then tell me that my next argument that I'm going to read is going to be better. So I'm looking for something like more importantly, more significantly, of far greater import. I'm looking for something that says I'm going into something that is more important. That is an order of importance transition. So there are any number of order of importance transitions you can choose. So you could say something like more significantly, more importantly, of far greater significance, more compelling is the fact that, and you can see all of these, the basis of it is that you're telling me that what's about to come is an even better argument. And that makes me as the reader go, ooh, you think what's coming up next is better? Well, then I want to see what that is. You're creating the sense of, hey, you've got to keep reading me to get the really good stuff here. So more importantly, it's a little bit basic, but sometimes basic works. So, more importantly, Cox is a very heroic man for saving so many people. Cox started publishing stories of the kidnappings in Argentina, and he managed to save many lives, even though it meant his own life was in danger. When Maria Consuelo, okay, so now we keep going. And now the two arguments are tied together with this transition. So, am I done with my argument or my paragraph? My argument, yes, I've got two arguments in here. But I'm not done with my paragraph yet because I need a closing sentence. Now, the first thing you're going to have is a closing transition. And all of you are going to be tempted to write, in conclusion, which is the worst concluding transition ever because it's like, hey, you're too stupid to recognize a conclusion. So I'm going to tell you it's a conclusion. If you would do something in third grade, it's generally not great writing. So in the final analysis, in sum, ultimately, that would be a good one. If you go on Google and type closing transitions, you're going to find there are dozens. Now, what do I want to do in my conclusion, in my closing sentence? I want to reflect what happened in the opening, but I don't want to copy it exactly. So if I up front said Robert Cox was a hero, I don't want to say ultimately Robert Cox was a hero. So you want to put it into different words. So Cox embodied the idea of heroism. However, there's one other rule. You have to have a closing transition, ultimately. You have to reflect the opening topic sentence. So my opening topic sentence started with hero, so I've got to go back to that idea of hero. So here we have Cox and hero. Here I have Cox and hero. But there's one more thing. You see, the very first thing you told me was Robert Cox was a hero. And then you gave me this argument proving it. And then you gave me this argument proving it. And after you give me all this evidence, that conclusion should be like, yeah, mic drop moment. I told you he was a hero. Which means your language has to reflect that conclusion should be far more intense. It's got to be the mic drop moment. It's got to be you saying, yeah, told you, look at all those facts. So we need to get a word in the conclusion that is an intensifier. So take me back into, there you go. Ultimately, Cox definitely embodied the idea of heroism. And this last sentence, the conclusion, finishes out your paragraph. So, with the addition of 3 things, I have taken argument and I've turned it into a formal paragraph. So, argument. You're going to have 2 full arguments. Each one is going to focus on a different way that the topic sentence appears. So let's take a quick look let me erase all this because I shouldn't have colored all of that. I got a little happy with the coloring pencils there. Sorry about that. So if my topic sentence, if my topic sentence starts with Robert Cox is a hero, my first question is going to be, why is he a hero? He's a hero because he risked himself reporting on injustice. That fact should prove injustice. The commentary should come back to injustice. And all of that should prove he's a hero. You're then going to go into your second argument. Give me a second reason why he's a hero. He's heroic for saving people. That facts should show he is saving people. Your commentary should go into how people have been saved. And then all of that goes back to prove that he is a hero. So what you're looking at here are 2 separate arguments that give you 2 separate reasons for believing the exact same topic. In this case, the topic, Robert Cox is a hero. Once you have those 2 separate arguments to create a paragraph, all you need is a topic sentence, a transition to mark where argument number 1 and argument number 2 meet each other, and then a concluding sentence that has, let me change pens, a concluding transition that goes back to the topic sentence and has an intensifier word in it. That is a formal paragraph. Now, what is your assignment? You are going to have to look at all of the various arguments your classmates made about our Polish doctor. You are going to have to choose 2 of those arguments that you think work really well together. You are going to have to edit those 2 arguments to incorporate some really nice vocabulary. And then you are going to have to take those 2 arguments and you are going to have to combine them to create 1 paragraph. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But this is your model, and I want you to go and do this exact same thing with Dr. Lazowski.